I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a moment to remember those who have supported us along our journeys, those with whom without, we would be lost to the dark, as I rank all the Soulsborne Maidens. In a vast majority of the Soulsborne games, we have a female character who serves as a way to empower the player, be it by allowing them to level up with souls in the case of Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring, by allowing them to level up their healing flask and cure dragon rot like in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice or in Dark Souls, or by being a focal element of the story who helps support you in missions, like in Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Yes, I know that's not a Soulsborne game, no, I'm not going to stop talking about it. That's right, I'm taking a look at our wonderful maidens. I'll take into account their histories, their role in the game, their use during gameplay, and most importantly, my own personal connection to each of them. You could have the best lore in the world, but if I don't have that personal connection when I look at you, there's not much we can do about that. So let's do it, all 11 Soulsborne Maidens, ranked. Let me know your favourite maiden down below. At number 11, we have the first of 3 Firekeepers from Dark Souls on today's list. It's Anastasia of Astora. A frail, mute woman when you first meet her, she's here to do her job, keep her distance, and power Firelink Shrine from below. Her sole purpose, beyond keeping our most important bonfire alive, is to be killed by Lautrec. Lore-wise, she's an accessory to a different undead, and when revived upon the restoration of her soul, she's devastated to learn she can talk again. It's clear that she hates herself and feels she deserves to be banished and imprisoned, and that's really it. She's mentioned to be impure, but that's never expanded upon, and not much is known about her even after all these years. Imagine getting out of Blighttown, emerging to see the Firelink bonfire unlit, being forced to trudge to the parish, and then getting killed by a soldier right before you reach Andre, sending you back down to the depths of Blighttown. There's no worse fate I could place on a player. Anastasia, I'm sorry my dear, but you're giving me nothing. I have 2 other Firekeepers I vastly prefer, who I'd rather upgrade my Estus flask with. At number 10, we have Arena of Karim in Dark Souls 3. Not everyone is aware of this, as it's incredibly easy to accidentally get her bad ending, but if you buy all of Arena's miracles, excluding the dark ones, and give her Braille divine tomes found across the land, excluding the dark ones, she'll eventually become a Firekeeper. You can find her hidden away in the tower to the left of Firelink Shrine, where she happily levels you up if you go to her. But ironically, it's her becoming a level up maiden that has her this low, because I honestly find her ending so bittersweet. Unlike the main Firekeeper, she's relegated to this dingy tower among the corpses of those other Firekeepers lost to time. She doesn't get the joy of tending to the Firelink flame, nor does she hold a purpose in the grand scheme of Dark Souls 3's narrative. Her character meets an ending that she wants, but in doing so, I feel she ends up more alone than she would by chilling in her nook in the main part of Firelink Shrine. I don't even go to her for level ups because she's just so inconveniently far away. And yet it's not like her other endings are better. She's destined to either become a lonely Firekeeper tending to a flame that, depending on your ending, may be about to smolder, or she loses herself to the darkness and doesn't achieve the goal she set out to, leading to her death and a confrontation with Aegon resulting in his death as well. It's one of the most somber questlines in Dark Souls 3. It's actually extremely well done, but because of how empty it makes me feel, I can't help but rank her this low. She deserved so much better. At number 9, we have the Daughter of Chaos from Dark Souls, the second of 3 Firekeepers, and perhaps the one with the most tragic of backstories. Her sister, Quelaag, sought to protect her from the outside world while trying to soothe her wounds from the Witch of Izalith's bullshit. And here we stumble in, killing her sister, with the Daughter of Chaos never finding out the truth, never knowing that her sister was slain and made into a super cool katana boss weapon. Instead, we use her, praying at her covenant to allow ourselves a chance to save Solaire of Astora. She provides use that helps us change the fate of one of the series' most beloved characters, and that easily bumps her over my last 2 entries, but there's still tragedy, as wearing the old witch's ring allows you to talk to the sister, but you don't really talk to her. You just listen to her, assume that you're Quelaag, never giving her confirmation or speaking back. It's a really fucked up situation, and for a character who endlessly suffers, needing the humanity offered to ease her pain, she's someone who ultimately succumbs to her fate, as seen via the corpse of her in Dark Souls 3. Genuinely sad, but the music that plays around her bonfire is an absolute bop, and that's more than enough to bump her to number 9. At number 8, we have the Darkmoon Knightess from Dark Souls. The last of the 3 Firekeepers, and my personal favourite because of the 3, she actually has a personality and interacts with the player. She seems like an absolute badass when you arrive, has a cool armor set, and a great voice to match. Her role is to protect Gwyndolin as a Blade of the Darkmoon, while tending to her bonfire at the start of Anor Londo, and she is my preferred Firekeeper to level up at because she's just a queen, and the way she plays her role to perfection, guiding you to the cathedral to face Ornstein and Smo and collect the Lord Vessel, was chef's kiss. But she's also the only Firekeeper in this game that you get to fight. If you dispel the magic of Gwyndolin by killing Guinevere, or just by killing Gwyndolin in the Darkmoon tomb after joining his covenant, she'll naturally become hostile and attempt to slay you, meaning you can then kill her for her Firekeeper soul, which you can use to power up your Estus flask with one of the other 2. Plus, you get her armor set after killing her liege, so in a way, she lives on through you. Not that she sees it that way. I just prefer a maiden who's got fight in her, someone who is willing to get down and dirty, as opposed to relying on someone else wholeheartedly, and the Darkmoon Knightess is one of the few who does this. At number 7, we have the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3. The most controversial take on this list, I will freely admit that while I find her services extremely useful, as she's the sole reason why I'm able to level up in Dark Souls 3, I just don't click with her on a personal level. She is dedicated to her duty, unable to have her own sense of individuality, wholly ready to serve the Ashen One in their endeavors, which is wonderful, great. We have someone who stands us and wants to level us up, bring the cinders of lords to their thrones, and head off to the kiln. The problem is that beyond this, she really doesn't have much of a personality. Yes, you can find out about the lore of the Firekeepers, how they're stripped of their sight and of light entirely in order to carry out their duties and not be tempted by the darkness, but I think about how you can take her on an entirely new path with the eyes of a Firekeeper from the Dark Firelink Shrine, and I wonder, do I care enough? I did that ending to get the achievement, but that's about it. I'll say that I do relate to her final dialogue.
Ashen One, hearest thou my voice still?
Is a great closing line for Dark Souls 3, as the fire fades and she carries it upon her bosom, and many do consider it to be the true ending of the trilogy. The lore implications are fantastic, but the Firekeeper herself feels more like an instrument bringing about this change to me than a character I grew to care about. I like that we can give her a purpose, but I really dislike just how dedicated she is to the player, that she's willing to just say, kill me if you change my mind, I'll respawn like my old self. It's not like, say, the doll in Bloodborne, who is designed to be dedicated to the player, but has fleeting moments of individuality throughout the game. And that, for me, is what draws me to or from a character. I really needed more from her, and I get that from the other maidens on this list far more. If you're a fan of the Dark Souls 3 Firekeeper, explain to me why she's your favourite, because I know that most of the fandom adores her, and I just want to understand why. At number 6, we have the Emerald Herald from Dark Souls 2. My first level up maiden, I originally had her in my top 3. But upon reflection and taking into consideration the rest of the entries on today's list, I just couldn't justify keeping her as high as she was. The perks of the Emerald Herald: she's more than happy to lore dump on the player. She's got that bear seek lest energy that powers 1,000 memes, and her design is so colourful and unique as she brings that pop of emerald into her aesthetic. She's mysterious, often found staring into the distance, but always willing to help ease your burden. And unlike many of the other maidens still to come, she appears throughout the story at various locations to offer cryptic lore, standing before the entrance to Vendrick Castle, at the Undead Crypt, then the entry to the Dragon Eyrie, and lastly before the Throne of Want, where she reveals her true name, Shanalot, and her role as a failed experiment to end the curse of the undead. Thus, she brings bearers of the curse to the land of Drangleic so they may complete her role in her place. The problem with the Emerald Herald is that she is the biggest victim of Dark Souls 2's cut content and plot rewrites, as she had a much larger role to play in the original concept for the game, and that's what keeps her this low. She's a good character, and I like how active she is in the plot, but she ultimately has so much missed potential for a character expansion that I wish we had gotten to see. So many missed opportunities. But she does give us the aged feather, a perma-homeward bone, so you know what, we stan. I associate her with Majula's music. I'd even consider it to be her theme, as opposed to the theme of the town, and she will always have a fond place in my heart, even if I know she isn't the strongest maiden in the franchise. Bear seek lest, my friend. Hey all, sorry to be a bother, but I'm trying to reach 35,000 subscribers by October of 2024. If, after finishing this video, you like what you see, consider parrying that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my future videos. Back to the regularly scheduled programming. At number 5, we have the Maiden in Black from Demon's Souls. The original Level Up gal, she's got a large fan base, and pretty much everybody who's played Demon's Souls understands why she's such a great character. To start with, the Maiden in Black is tasked with lulling the Great One back to its slumber. To do this, she needs someone who can bring together the most powerful of Demon's Souls, to allow an audience with the Old One below the Nexus. Thus, when you are slain approaching Boletaria, she plucks you from death and resurrects you, tying you to the Nexus until your task is complete. Without her, you would just be dead, which would suck. Here, she acts as your level up maiden, and as the first of her trope, people took to her like fire to wood. She has her prayer that she states anytime you level up, which many Demon's Souls fans know word for word. Her theme, Maiden in Black, is perhaps my favourite from the original soundtrack, promoting a sense of safety in the Nexus while keeping its ethereal nature intact. And most importantly, she ties into the ending of the game quite naturally, unlike, say, the Firekeeper of Dark Souls 3, whom you have to coax into having an effect on the world. She trusts you to defeat True King Alant, and then asks you to leave her and the Old One to their slumber so they both may sleep for eternity and bring peace to the world. Whether you choose to side with her, allowing her to fulfill her purpose and choose her own destiny, or kill her and claim the power of demons for yourself, she is completely intertwined with the outcome of the game. Plus, her design is just really strong. I love the color black, and she's basically a goth girl's dream. She's not my personal favorite maiden, but she's easily one of the best, and you can make a case for her being number 1, and I'd be like, yeah, I get it. At number 4, we have Emma from Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Due to Sekiro not following the same level system that the rest of FromSoft's modern catalogue has, Emma's role is instead to level up your healing gourd, the Estus flask of the game, as you provide her with gourd seeds. She can also teach the player how to cure dragon rot, which is vital information when it comes to completing a variety of the game's side quests, as a rotted NPC cannot continue their quest lines. Emma, though, is more tied to the events of Sekiro's plot, as she works for Isshin Ashina and wishes to help Sekiro and Kuro in their journey to seek and achieve immortal severance. To this end, she'll give the player advice throughout the game, and is often required to talk to in order to advance certain plot points. This includes gaining access to the Hirata Estate revisit that eventually gets you an important key item for achieving the secret ending of the game, an invaluable asset to be sure. She's but a doctor if you stay the course, and yet if you choose to turn from your path, sticking to the Iron Code, she becomes a tragic boss fight you have to slay to achieve the surer ending. Here, Emma earns her keep as a powerful swordswoman trained by Isshin in the Ashina school of combat skills. On top of that, she's got terrifying grabs and a surprisingly gentle, methodical movement style that befits her role as a doctor. I love that her personality is on full display in her fight. But I'm more glad that in the other endings, she lives to see the credits roll, staying by Isshin's side until he passes, before telling Sekiro where to head after he reappears following Fountainhead Palace. Without her, Wolf wouldn't have gotten to where he needed to go, and she's an underrated tour de force in Sekiro's world. Well deserving of a highlight in today's list. At number 3, we have Aaviier from Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Now, as I said in the beginning of this video, I know Armored Core is not a Souls game. I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise. I'm just including it because it gives me more excuses to talk about a FromSoft game that many of you are missing out on. That being said, as many of you haven't played the game, spoilers are inbound. Skip to the next section via the timestamps in the description if you don't want spoilers for the entire game. Aaviier is a disembodied voice that, following the events of Attack the Watchpoint, becomes a companion to the player character. She's awakened following a choral explosion that resonates her consciousness with 621, and as the game progresses, we learn more about the nature of her existence. Of all the Maidens in the series, she's one of the most active, taking a navigator-style role during your missions, warning you about incoming threats, analyzing data as you work, effectively doing a more on-the-ground job that Handler Walter does. You grow incredibly close over the course of the game, as she's truly your one ally you feel you can trust. That is until you reach Chapter 5 and you're forced to make some decisions. Her people come from the Coral of Rubicon, and Handler Walter's mission is to burn the coral, so that none can use its destructive nature any longer. It's a powerful substance, but dangerous in the wrong hands, and honestly, no matter the ending, it's left ambiguous as to the state of the universe. In the Liberator of Rubicon ending, you save the coral from being destroyed, fighting your former mentor, and killing all your main allies across the game for Aaviier and Rubicon. In the Secret New Game Plus Plus ending, Aaviier joins the fight against secret boss Allmind, actively helping the player in battle in a way she wasn't able to before. This ending is perhaps the best for Aaviier, as it ends with Coral Release, which has a Mass Effect 3 style sequence where the universe is merged together with the coral, creating an entirely new species, or so I hope I'm reading that correctly. The saddest ending, and the reason why Aaviier makes it this high on the list though, is the Fires of Raven ending. This was the first I obtained in the game, where I chose not to betray Syndicala, and instead burn the coral, creating a Fires of Ibis 2.0, the event that started the Coral War and led to the events of the game. Here, Aaviier is the final boss of the route, providing an extremely difficult challenge that tested me on every skill I'd obtained over the course of my playthrough. All the while, she laments that we could never see eye to eye in the end, unable to work together despite our potential. She fights with all her might to protect what she holds dear, and in the end, we slay her, her people, and let them all burn. Armored Core 6 doesn't have a happy ending, but that's what makes picking a side more fascinating. It's always got shades of grey in its morality, and Aaviir's fate and role in the story is a perfect example of this. At number 2, we have Melina from Elden Ring. When we arrive in the lands between, we are maidenless, a lost cause, forced to wander the grassy fields of Limgrave for a purpose, and yet Melina and Torrent both keep an eye on our progress, for they found us in the stranded graveyard, and Torrent felt a connection. Thus, when the time comes, Melina appears before us to offer an accord. Though not a true finger maiden, she can still play the role, turning runes into strength and giving us the power to progress through the lands between. All she wishes is to be taken to the place of her birth, the Erd Tree, where she can find the truth of her existence for herself. Melina, when not leveling the player up, will appear at certain graces if you choose to talk to her, and she can impart various tidbits of lore about Marika and her own purpose in the world or lack hereof. She also grants you access to the Round Table Hold, which is perhaps her most valuable service following the level up system, and of course she gifts you Torrent to help you on your journey. But Melina for me is more fascinating for her lore and role in the plot than anything she does for the player. When you reach Lanedell, she declares she is leaving to find her purpose, abandoning you with the power to level up and summon Torrent before vanishing into the ether. What's fun is that she can actually be summoned outside the Morgott fight, allowing you to actually fight alongside your Maiden. She uses the Blade of Calling, a weapon that can be found in a hidden room on the elevator to the Forbidden Lands, and many theorize this to be a room Melina once inhabited. Her true role, and the power of her character, comes from her determination to reclaim destined death and deliver you as Elden Lord, which requires the burning of the Erd Tree, the cardinal sin. So you travel to the mountaintops of the Giants, perhaps being tempted by Shabriri to accept the frenzied flame, as it's revealed that in order to burn away the impenetrable thorns, Melina has to sacrifice herself as kindling. So what do? Accept the power of frenzy, leading to Melina abandoning you with the promise that should you ascend to Elden Lord in this state, she will kill you, as seen in the ending cutscene where she appears vowing to end your miserable existence? Or do you choose to sacrifice your Finger Maiden, allowing Melina to choose her fate and letting her be the kindling that allows you to complete your mission and become Elden Lord? In this ending, she's invaluable to the player, and is the sole reason you're able to face down Radagon at the game's conclusion. Though we don't know her too terribly well, it hurts to see someone so devoted to us choose to sacrifice their life to allow us to move on, and I just think the story is well told. Perhaps we'll get some more Melina lore in the DLC, as there are still so many questions that need answers. At number 1, we have the Doll from Bloodborne. Found in the Hunter's Dream, she initially appears as a simple object, lifeless. You might not even think much of her as you collect your weapons and head back to Yharnam. But the moment you gain a slither of insight, you return to find her awake, ready to attend to your needs. The doll is designed as a companion to the hunter, someone who aims to comfort them anytime they return to the hunter's dream, while also turning their blood echoes into strength. So her main purpose is to level you up, which is quite important, but beyond that, she's also just a kind soul in a game where not many NPCs give you the time of day. The doll even points out how cute the messengers are in their little baths with their little accessories you can equip, how quaint. But of course, there is more to her than meets the eye. If you find the old hunter's workshop in the waking world, you can find an exact replica of the doll as well as her armor set, which hints at Gehrman's obsession with her likeness, something that is expanded upon in the old hunter's DLC. You can actually give her a small hair ornament that was meant for the doll of the waking world, which brings her an immense amount of joy. It shows that while the doll is here for your comfort, she has her own desires even if she doesn't quite understand them yet. It's just far more under the surface than any of the other maidens in FromSoft's catalogue. While other franchise maidens also do this, I think the doll is most famous for interacting with certain gestures, a very cute touch that works well with her character as she seeks her own meaning, however brief, through your actions. Of course, as we later discover, she was based upon the likeness of Maria of the Astral Clock Tower, a manic obsession of Gehrman's who ultimately doesn't ease his pain while in the dream because the doll only looks like Maria. She doesn't possess that fiery temperament Señorita Clock Tower has. I think why I love the doll is that no matter what happens in the game, she always has a kind heart for the hunters. Every headstone in the dream was once a hunter who passed through, some of whom we actually know in the waking world like Jura and Eileen. All she wishes is for every hunter to find comfort, to have a pleasant awakening. Though, if you choose to ascend and become Slug, she becomes your caretaker, ensuring you grow to be the best Great One you can be. And yet, it's her dialogue at the end of the Yharnam Sunrise ending, where Gehrman slices off your head and she stands by your headstone in the dream, that hits the hardest, while honestly being perfect motivation for me in my actual IRL life, so let me leave you with this.
Farewell, good hunter.
May you find your worth in the waking world.
And that's my list. Which Soulsborne Maiden is your favourite? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of my future videos. My social medias are on screen now, feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I recommend my Twitter or my Discord, they're where I'm most active. I definitely would recommend the Twitter. A massive shout out to my YouTube channel members. It's $4.99 a month and you get early access to my Tuesday videos, as well as a shout out in the description and at the end of these videos. Thank you so much for your support. And a massive shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. I will be phasing this out in June, so for now, thank you so much to you guys for the support over the years, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Adios.